Okay, and we're back. Today we're joined by Mr. K. Mr. K, say hello.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to talk about his journey from teaching to writing. To start us off, you studied philosophy at California State, correct?
That's correct.
All right. How did studying philosophy influence your storytelling, and would you say you've created your own philosophy? A few years ago, you described it as belonging. Would you say it stayed the same?
I appreciate you doing your research, Robert. Get prepared. I warned you that I was going to talk a lot because when we talk about me declaring philosophy as my major, so when I first started college, I was mostly focused on what path do I got to go down to make sure I have the best shot at a career. And so for me, that was either going into medicine or going into nursing. And as I took those science classes, organic chemistry, biology, I studied really, really hard, but I didn't have any talent for science class. And so it became less and less inspiring to go to class. And part of college, you have to take a bunch of GEs, general elective classes. Philosophy was one of them. It was an ethics class. And I remember sitting in class and the discussion we were having was, what does it mean to be a good person? And I was thinking to myself, you mean I could study a whole major about what it means to be a good person? And for me, that's when I switched over to philosophy, because for me personally, growing up, I didn't feel like I made good choices and I was a good person. So I felt I really needed that guidance. And your question about belonging, the project that I'm working on now as a writer is actually about what does it mean to find one's home. So it's interesting that you asked about belonging, because I feel like shelter is one thing, to have an actual place to sleep, but the feeling of home is different. And so I'm constantly pursuing that feeling of belonging, which I'm feeling right now amongst you. So I appreciate, this is, to me, this is like a part of home, is being with y'all.
I'm glad we could give you that aspect.
How do you feel that New York is often the place of dreamers? America makes dreams for Park feel impossible. What aspect from the city made you believe it would be a place of dreaming for you?
I love that. Yeah. New York is, especially right now we're sitting in Harlem. And actually, when I first moved out here in 2018, I moved to 129th and between Lenox and Fifth. And I felt an immediate sense of belonging because of the diversity. So you talked about POC. Where I grew up in Los Angeles, it was really diverse. People hanging out on stoops. I grew up a single mom. She grew us in a one-bedroom apartment. And so we did and I had two older brothers, so I didn't want to be in a one-bedroom apartment all the time. So we would go outside, hang out with friends. And when I got to Harlem, it felt like the same thing, just a continuation of my childhood in LA and New York. Man, you just look out the window and everybody has a story here. Not just the artist, like somebody who is delivering the mail, somebody who's walking their dog, someone who's having a hard day. If you stop and talk to them, they have a whole story to tell you. And that's one thing I love about New York.
Our gym teacher.
I will pass it to Abdul Lamar. That question.
Speaking of Mike.
My question would be what made you switch to teaching in Harlem for high school?
Especially, why did you choose us?
What made you choose DP to come and teach?
Yeah, why did you choose us?
Out of all the schools in New York, why DP?
And there's a lot of schools.
Why DP?
There's a lot of schools, and then there's like private schools, which I've experienced teaching in private school before. There's obviously DOE, then there's charter, and then there's Harlem Prep. That's a big question, which I'm happy to go into more. And the short answer that I'll give is I feel like, I grew up Muslim and I continue to have a strong faith in God. I feel like God chose me to come to teach here, because the very honest answer is there are jobs that are out there that I thought that's where I belonged and I wanted to teach, but God was like, no, wait up. This is where you belong. And so when Mr. Stephenson called, it was like, we wanted you to come interview. I said, well, I didn't have this in mind necessarily, but clearly this is where I need to be because he's the person that called.
You got a question, Clyde?
Clyde Myers, the guy that skipped this class, by the way.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, Clyde.
AKA Barry White.
Alright. So pretty much my question about your book, I would say it's about the debut experience. Now that your book is out, what is the most surprising thing that an Iranian slash American reader has told you about how they saw themselves in K's journey of your book?
Wow, that's a really, really good question. I appreciate that, yo. There's this writer who's also Iranian American. His name is Kaveh Akbar, and he's a poet. He had a novel come out a few years ago now, and it blew up and is massively successful. I mean, he himself is a really just sweet, caring person, and I bring him up because when he read an advanced copy of I Will Greet the Sun Again, the novel that you're referring to, he wrote one of the blurbs on the back. So one of his endorsements was, I wish I had this book when I was growing up. He's like, I'm jealous of the kids that get to read this book. I wish I had it. And to me, that was the biggest compliment for somebody that I look up to. It's like Kobe and Jordan. It's like Jordan saying, man, I wish, I would have been X, Y, and Z. It was like my version of Jordan giving me a shout out like that. And, we continue to be very close to this day. And just getting to write a book. I didn't grow up, I even told y'all, like, the library that we're in right now is super dope, and I'm so glad that y'all are utilizing the space, because when I was your age, I didn't. When I got to college, for sure, but, I was like Clyde. I was never going to my English class, man. And so I'm never going to English class, and then, you fast forward so many years, and I'm a published writer. Like, what? It's definitely a dream come true, for sure.
The second one. My question is, do you think you would have ever written a book and won an award from it?
So, you know what it is too, though? I mean, I was kind of full of myself. So the honest answer is, like, I feel like as a kid, I would go, yeah, for sure, I would have won an award. But if I'm being real, like, nah, man, I didn't think anybody would ever, like, put my name on something and make it public. You know what I mean? And that's something else we can get into too, is like this idea of my name. My name is long, Khashayar J, Khabushani. And I grew up in post 9/11. And so I didn't want people to be able to recognize that my family came from the Middle East. So I literally went to court and I changed my name because I was so embarrassed of my birth name.
Hold up, what did you change it to?
Yeah. So I switched it. So J stands for Joshua. So I went to court and I was like, man, this Khashayar nonsense, we're gonna get rid of that. And we're gonna make it Joshua. Yeah. But then when I was writing a book, I was like, nah, I want the world to know what my birth name was. Mm-hmm. And so to that, like, did I think I would ever have the chance to publish something and to have that name on it that speaks to my family being from Iran? That I would have never thought, and it's such a dream.
Would you say, like, you're ashamed of how you was raised and, like, how your background, or no?
That's a really good question. I feel, unfortunately, and this is why I'm always on my students about how y'all talk to each other and speaking with kindness. Unfortunately, I feel like, and maybe this is the case for every country in the world, but in America, when you're growing up, the environment kind of teaches you to be ashamed, unfortunately. And, like, mind you, there was also stuff going on at home. I didn't have a good relationship with my dad, and so that made me feel funny about my ethnicity and my culture. But then, yeah, if you're going to school and people are calling you a terrorist, it's gonna make you feel a certain way.
Speaking of America making you feel ashamed, how would you say your queer experiences was in Cali, and do you believe it would have been different if you were a city kid? Because in the city's so big, nobody really cares what you identify as.
Again, I promised y'all I was gonna be honest, so I'm just gonna keep it really real. I was one of the people that made other people feel ashamed about their sexuality, because the way it works is, have y'all seen the movie Moonlight?
No.
So often what happens is, if there's a part of you that's different, you end up, and you notice that in somebody else, especially as a young person, you end up attacking that thing because you're so afraid of being recognized yourself that you're like, I'm gonna get them first before they get me. And that was kind of my approach. Like, I was dropping the F word here and there, calling people this and that. And it's also just part of the culture, like, especially in rap music and hip hop at the time, early 2000s. So it wasn't until I got to New York where I was like, no, this is a part of who I am, and I'm gonna embrace that part of me. And to your point, in a place like New York, it is much more accepting. And then I feel like there are people in the culture like Frank Ocean and all these other artists that have embraced that part of themselves and produce dope music. And you're like, oh, okay, it's not a big deal. Like, people are accepting it.
Did embracing both parts of yourself, like being an Iranian American and being a queer person in America, come at the same time as you like changing your name, or were they like delayed?
That's amazing that you asked that, because it actually happened side by side. So when I came out as queer was also when I started being like, I need to go back and go by my birth name again. So it's interesting how when we sort of, so to speak, come out of the closet, like you can come out in many ways. It's not just sexuality, it could be your ethnicity, your religion, whatever it is. Admitting to yourself that you want to be an artist, that's a form of coming out, you know?
When you came out as queer, like, how did your parents take it? Especially your dad. Like, how did they take it in general?
Yeah, like many cultures, there's quite a bit of homophobia in the Iranian culture. My mom was concerned about me, and I think she was worried just about like me not being accepted, kind of motherly concerns. And to be honest, I didn't even feel comfortable to tell my dad. Like, to this day, I still haven't told him.
Wow.
Because of just the.
You feel like he's gonna judge you?
Yeah. And I don't even, one dope thing about being an adult and accepting yourself, in my experience, once you do that work, you don't really need the acceptance, even if somebody as important as a parent. At least that's been my experience.
In the book, your dad, I believe, went back home and stayed there for a few. Is that true, or did you just never have the chance to tell him? Is he still in Cali? Or?
No, he's back in Iran. Yeah. And we, I mean, now with like all the different apps, I can get in touch with him, but I choose not to.
How do you think he would feel like after years if you like came out as queer and you're just not telling him? How do you think like his reaction? How is he gonna take it? His reaction towards that news from his son.
I've thought about this a lot. I think he would be. I would hope he'd be inspired to come out himself, because I think he shares that same quality, but never had the chance to embrace that part of himself.
I mean, as we get older, I believe we grow more attached from our parents in some aspects, or like stop chasing fatherly approval. Do you believe telling your father would be the last and final step for you to truly accept your truth, or do you view it as unnecessary growing, like as a person you are right now?
I think every circumstance is different, and so if we had that kind of relationship where I felt we could talk about those things, it would be amazing to have that conversation. But if someone isn't doing their part and making that effort, I don't feel it's my job to say, let me go out of my way to tell you this thing about myself.
Do you have like a love relationship with him or no? Or like in between?
Yeah, like I love him. He's my dad. I'll always have love for him. But in order to take care of myself, I had to go my own way.
If you had to choose, like, what parent would you be like, you say you favorite the most? Obviously, I know you're going to say your mom.
Mama's boy.
Well, remember at the beginning of the conversation, I was talking about home?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have a favorite parent because I don't feel like I had that kind of closeness and bond with them. Like, I respect them. I love them. If my mom were to call me today, I would answer, "What's up, Mom?" But she was working, she was in school, we didn't spend time together, and so it kind of felt like, and I have two older brothers where I felt like this with them too. It was like, yeah, we live together, but y'all are strangers to me because we don't talk.
Gotcha.
Alright, so my question.
Clyde, this is extra credit for the Mr. Simon.
Beautiful. No, he couldn't.
Like, you talking like honey system? But my research was like, you used to be a middle school teacher, and how was your time working as a middle school teacher? How did it influence the way you wrote the voices of Kay and his it? And did your students' lives bleed into that?
Man, I so appreciate that question because it's directly that. So I taught at a middle school, and the school that I taught at, kids were behind, let's say, not all of them, but several of them were behind their reading level and writing level. So let's just say I taught 8th graders who were 14 years old. They read at a, let's say, 9 or 10-year-old level, right? At the end of my last year with the middle schoolers back in LA, we had this assignment where we asked them to write letters to people in their community that they're appreciative of. So basically gratitude letters, right? And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, they might struggle with this because writing is tough for them and vocabulary is limited. But the coolest thing happened. So they wrote these letters. Let's say I had 25 students. And I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting in a coffee shop and I was going through their letters. And each person, I could see them distinctly and clearly as though they were talking straight to me from the page, right? And that's when I realized it's not about how smart you are or how good of a vocabulary you have. It's about taking the voice you have and bringing it to the page. And so for me, that was the best. I went to Columbia and got like a really fancy degree in writing, right?
Okay.
That was the best education in writing that I got, was from my middle school students who were willing to write in their authentic voice to the point where I could hear them as though they were sitting with me at the table. And to me, that is like what makes good writing.
Fine.
So, you wanna go?
He's trying to catch up on his grades.
Trying to get that honey.
Don't worry, Clyde. You get your extra credit later.
Get your honey.
Let me just get this question out real quick. Okay, similar to your story, there's a movie called I Saw the TV Glow. Have you heard of it?
Nah.
Well, in I Saw the TV Glow, it showcases a new type of horror, a trope of never reaching your full potential. A character, Owen, also queer, realizes way too late in life that he should have followed his friends and lived his truth. Where do you think Joseph would be right now if you didn't change your name back to its original?
Joshua.
Joshua, not Joseph.
Sorry.
It's funny though, because Joseph is the name of a character that I given, so I've always liked that name. So your question was, where would he be if I never changed it?
Yeah. If he never lived his truth.
Think about it.
If he never lived his truth. Man, I think I would be like locked in a room in my mom's house, too scared to come out. You know what I mean? And just afraid. Not that there's anything. I'm not trying to knock that, but it's not hard for me to imagine that because I feel that was a very real possibility for me, which is I'm not going to leave this environment that I know well, and I'm just going to stick to it because doing anything else was scary. I didn't know anybody that lived in New York when I moved out here. I didn't know anybody that went to graduate school or that became a writer. It was like doing things that I was just following because of a passion. And often it's a lot easier to stay with what's familiar than, that's why I tell all y'all, like, yeah, it's good that you're thinking about going to school here in the city. I mean, it's New York, but also if there's something that interests you outside of New York, look at that too, because it's okay to leave your comfort.
So what was the spark that created so many big changes in your life?
Man, I just knew I wasn't afraid that I was gonna die, but I was afraid that like my soul, my spirit would just be dead. And so what happened was my fear of that was so strong that it's like you have two options. Leaving is scary. To me, what was even scarier was having to live the rest of my life and thinking to myself, why didn't I ever go pursue what I was passionate about? To me, that's even scarier.
If you was never like a teacher or like an author, what would you think you would be to this day? What career path would you choose this day if none of those two?
So remember I was telling you about medicine? There's a world where if I was much better at the sciences, I would love to be a doctor working with kids. It's funny because it always comes back to kids. I would love to work with kids at a children's hospital who are...
a pediatrician?
Yeah.
The microphone.
You gotta get him the
He's just ready to talk.
At what point, do you think medicine is not the long-term path for you to go?
Yeah, it was when I was in university and I was failing my tests, and I also did an internship at a hospital, and I realized that blood really scared me. I was like, I don't think I could pursue this path if I want to pass out every time I see blood, and that's when I realized all right, I got to figure out something else.
I think your story is beautiful. I think it's very similar to this quote I've heard before. Is it better to speak or to die? I feel like that relates to you very well, and your chosen path really suits you. So I'm glad we could have you in New York instead of Cali.
I appreciate it. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I think it's good to end it there.
Nah, wait, I got one more question.
You want that extra credit?
Yeah.
I got one more question. Let me get it.
Put this in the credits.
My question is about legacy.
Hmm.
What does the word legacy mean to you, and how do you feel like you represent that day in and day out?
So my favorite writer who grew up just a few blocks from here is James Baldwin. And he always talked about, for him, it was about how you inspire the younger generation. And to me, which is why I'm a teacher, which is why it's such an honor to be here with y'all, is the legacy is like, what do the younger generation have to say about the impact you had on them? It's not about, to me, it's not about success or money. It's like, oh, I remember I took a class with him. I didn't even go to that class that often, but when I did, we had really good conversations. Or the way he treated me, he treated me with respect. Like, to me, that's an amazing legacy to leave behind.
Oh, my fault. Go.
If you had to relate to a student the most at DP,
Now
Out
you're
of our
setting
all
up.
young
Now you're
minds.
setting me up.
out of
You
our
s-
all young minds, how do you feel like which one in this room you relate to the most?
Honestly, one thing I love about teaching high school is like you get to see different parts of yourself in different students. It's like the part of you that is really into fashion, the part of you that's really into science, into math. It's like every student brings that, and then you get to kind of engage with it all. So that's an answer to not get myself into like choosing a favorite.
Okay. He dodged the bullet. Let's end it there.
Thanks
Wait,
for So sorry. Let's
If
go.
you had to choose between teaching and being an author, which would you pick and why?
So I can to this day, right? Like to this day, I've got a book that I'm working on. I told Robert, I got an exciting email from a director that wants to make this novel into a movie. It's going to take a while, but hopefully that's going to be in the works. So if I wanted to, I could go home and just make that my full-time thing. So I don't want to choose between the two because they both do different things for me. Like doing this with y'all, as a writer, I wouldn't necessarily be able to do this. It's because I teach at Harlem Prep and I've met y'all. So to me, I hope I continue to have the energy because like after this, I'm going home to write. So it's like having two full-time jobs,
Gotcha.
but God willing, inshallah, as I continue to have the energy, I'm gonna keep doing it.
How do you separate?
He keeps saying last one.
I'm sorry. I mean, we're gonna edit it out. So it's
Yeah, we're
okay.
gonna edit
It's
that.
not.
All
We're
right,
having a
listen.
good conversation.
How do you separate who you are as a person from your success? I feel like the lines can blur so easily and give you such a boost in ego. You have a movie coming out. You have all these books. Success.
You got a movie
But
coming
how do you bring it back to?
A long time from
You-
now. A
That's
long
great.
time from now. Yeah. Every morning, every night, I start my day and I end my night with a prayer, and I ask God to show me God's will for me, and whatever that looks like, I'm here to carry that out. It's not really my business what happens. Same thing I've had with a lot of failures, and it's the same thing with that. Whether a failure or a success happens, that's not my business. My business is to make sure that I keep showing up, and so that's how I separate it. Every morning I get up, I'm like, is my tie on right? You know, did I put on deodorant? Okay, I'm good to go.
I got one more question.
Let's do it.
Like, before you came like here have a topic like talk about like depression in men. Why you feel like some men are like when they're depressed are like scared to go ask for help?
Well, I'll take that question back to you. So if you're going through depression or let's say anxiety or let's say addiction, what's the first step that you got to take? Can I necessarily see that you're going through that?
No.
Sometimes you can.
Sometimes you
because
can
the
see
person
it.
looks really down,
Yeah.
right? But mostly, especially amongst men, you can't. It's not like you can say like, "Yo, your arm is broken. You need to go to the hospital." So the person has to talk, and often, either men aren't willing to, or we literally don't even know what words to use to express it. Which is why, to bring it back to English class, it's so important to like read and write, because it gives us the language so that when we are going through those things, we know how to communicate it.
I mean, I feel like we are what our environment expects us to be and what we learn as we grow. So I'm glad we have like a different lens as you, for example, to like show us who we can be as men.
Man, that means a lot. How do you think we transcend our environment? because this was what Rose was going through with Troy. Not to make it about, but we read Fences in
Running
class.
back to class.
Yeah. So she was always like, we got to do better, right? And that was one of the things that I asked. And you just brought it up, which I think is a brilliant point. And I'm always asking myself that too, is if my environment is telling me one thing, cool, I'll respect and acknowledge that. But if I want something else for myself, I got to make sure that I'm constantly reaching for that.
Well, in my opinion, I feel as if it's what you're doing right now. It depends on the art, everything that you take in, media-wise, literature-wise, all these great thinkers. As long as you see it, that's enough to change you as a person.
Which I'll end with a request, because you reminded me, the algorithms on your social media, be mindful of what you're taking in. I'm not saying don't spend time on social media, but you make up a really good point, which is these different medias know what to feed you, and it just becomes this loop. So if you're constantly looking at negative stuff, they're gonna keep sending you negative stuff. And so just make sure you're being mindful. I'm not telling you what to watch, what not to watch. Just be like, oh, that's interesting that I'm seeing the same kind of stuff every single day.
That's beautiful.
Where do you see yourself in like 5 to 10 years from now? Still being a teacher, like a full-time author?
Where I see myself, Cesar, is hitting you up and be like, yo, they're gonna screen my movie in Midtown at the theater. Like, come through.
I would love to
We
come
got a
through
red
and watch
carpet
it.
event.
Yeah, I would watch
Would it
love
be
to come
free,
watch
though?
it. Would it be free?
Right. VIP.
Do we get that student discount?
more than a discount.
The alumni discount.
Nah, man, you're gonna be so successful. You're gonna be buying out the place. Trust me.
Maybe, if God's will.
God's
That's God's will.
All right, before we go.
What advice you have for us
For all.
seniors, high school seniors,
Yeah.
going to the real world? So, like, to determine your career path.
Man, what y'all are doing right now, like, just being willing to engage in conversation, especially from someone like, I don't, you know, there might be things that we have similar, but I grew up in a different state. I'm from Iran, you know, blah, 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 blah. I'm a certain age of a certain generation. So there are a lot of differences, but y'all were willing to ask me to come and to hear what I had to say. As long as you keep doing that, like, that's how you're going to continue to expand your world, right? Especially in a place like New York. You've got so many people available to you.
When you moved, sorry, my fault. When you moved back,
Last
so you
one,
said
last one.
you said you moved back to Iran, right? Correct.
As a very, very young kid.
Yeah. How long did you stay there? And like, how does it change for you to move back from Iran back to America?
What's crazy about that story is my dad literally kidnapped us from my mom.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like overnight, he was like, "Hey, we're going on a trip," and next thing you know, and I'm 4. We're at the airport, and he's not telling us where we're going, and so I show up in Iran, and that was a really tough experience, as you could imagine. I did go back when I was 26 to rewrite that experience. I wanted to experience Iran on my own terms. Man, beautiful country, amazing people, the food, the culture, the history. If it was politically safe, I feel like maybe not full time, but I would want to get a place out there to spend like half the year, especially when we go on summer break. Man, I would love to go to Iran and hang out with.
I got my last question.
Dang.
This is my last one.
You're an interesting person. They just keep.
This is my last question. My last one.
I got a last question.
My last
I got a
one.
last question.
What is one quote you live by till this day? A quote you heard like, let's say 10 years back, you live by till this day. Like you memorize it
y'all
every day.
asking good questions because I'm getting like emotional every time you ask.
Oh,
a
sorry.
question. No, it's good. I love it's a gift. So thank you. I love feeling these emotions. I was having a really hard time and not following my truth, and there was this quote by George Eliot, and they said, "It's never too late to become who you wanted to be." Right? So even if you don't follow your truth at 21, at 18, at 30, it is never too late to be that person.
Lastly, and we mean it for real this time.
He
One
wanted full
Alright,
points.
dang,
He wanted extra credit.
Go
He wanted extra credit after his extra
Alright, let me
credit.
get it off my chest, let me get it off
But
my
this
chest.
is how we know we're having a good conversation, right?
Yeah.
Because things keep coming up.
Right. We've talked about how society and your environment affects who you are as a person, and it leads to you becoming who you are. When you look at your father and even look back at Iran and where he grew up, would you say you blame your father for how he acted towards you, or do you blame how he was raised? And if you look at it from that aspect, can you still find a chance to love your father?
So this is and I'll substitute that word with blame with understand, right? So again, this is the writer and the reader and the teacher in me, part of me, but to take it back to Troy, He grew up in a certain environment. He treated his son Corey a certain way. To me, I don't blame Troy for anything. I look at his environment and I understand. That doesn't mean I don't still hold him responsible. There's another quote back to your question, Cesar. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. So to my father, it's not his fault the way he was raised in 1930s Iran. I could only imagine. But when he becomes a father, it is his responsibility to make sure that he does things differently. So I'm not here to blame, right? But I am here to say, like, own your side of the street.
One more.
Clyde Myers, yeah, final piece of extra credit. Go.
Final piece. So pretty much, you said that you don't really have a relationship with your father, and I can attest to that. That's me as well. But
Thank you
I
for
would
sharing
say,
that.
Appreciate it. But I would say, like, would you? I don't know if you want to have a later generation, but if you were, would you ever want your kids to meet your father? If you ever feel comfortable?
I've thought about that a lot.
If you could ever get into like that point.
Well, one, on a practical side, he's old, so there's that, right? But let's say he's still living when I have kids. I think if I was in the room, as long as I was there, then I would love. I think it would be a huge gift to him to meet his grandchildren, for sure.
Do you think your dad would be proud of who you are today?
I mean, sorry to cut you off, but can he truly ever fully be proud if he doesn't realize who you fully are?
True. Because basically, he probably see you living like a fake life right now.
Exactly.
Like, do you think he'll be proud of the man you become since he's last seen you?
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, to what y'all said, I think he would think that I was wasting my opportunities and that I shouldn't, especially in my culture, it's you're a doctor or you're an engineer. Being a teacher or a writer isn't really something that is seen with seriousness. But again, like at this point, I'm 34. I actually, that's his loss. You know, that's on him. Like, if he doesn't see the achievements that I made, where I come from, and the things I overcame, that's on him.
Fine. I think we made some beautiful points here.
Right. Lucas, you got a question? You sure?
Yes. I appreciate y'all, man. And,
Really, thank you for coming.
Oh my God.
I appreciate you.
And we could always do part 2.